Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe Lonnie is off the track. That steak is cooked.
I gotta say, a lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
Man, my heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, you're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina, and I'm here with Jason, Steven, and Tristan, and today we're going to talk all things F1 conspiracies. Before we get into that, as always, the headlines for this week. First and foremost, HAAS signed a new deal with Toyota Racing. What did we think?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it sounds like they're not going to be an engine supplier anytime soon, which I guess is kind of be expected at this point.
Yeah.
But it's going to be cool to see the Gazoo Racing sticker on HAAS now. I mean, I think it's going to help HAAS massively just in terms of marketing. I mean, the presence that Gazoo Racing and Toyota have, all in all, I mean, I think it's going to help HAAS hugely, especially with their expenses and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool.
I think it's really interesting how it's a mutually beneficial agreement rather than being something where like they pay to be a sponsor or they're offering services and HAAS is paying or something like that, where it's just like they're both benefiting, both their racing teams, sharing technical stuff and all that. So yeah, I think it's really cool. I also thought it was interesting because people kept saying, oh, HAAS's new partnership with Toyota and leaving off Toyota Gazoo Racing, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, from what I understand, it's still not like directly with Toyota the manufacturer.
Well, Toyota Gazoo Racing is actually a relatively new thing.
Manufacturer team.
Yeah, it's a relatively new thing because it used to be TRD was like their main thing, I believe. And then recently, I think with the introduction of the 86, they had the Gazoo Racing name back in.
Always in Le Mans, and they've been in Le
Yeah.
Mans for years. Like since they were back in F1, they were always called Gazoo Racing. So this has always been like the racing team, and what it is it's their racing HQ in Germany, and they put it in Germany for the Nürburgring and the Nordschleife.
Yeah,
That's the only
greatest
reason why
racetrack
they're
of
there.
all time.
Now, what is really weird is what they're using. Like McLaren used to use Toyota Gazoo Racing's wind tunnel. They would just lease it out until they built their new one now in England. And when I heard this, I thought initially, wait, HAAS already uses Ferrari's wind tunnel. They use a bunch of Ferrari parts. Why would they want to use Toyota's?
Yeah.
But that's not it. So Dallara builds all the parts for the HAAS car. Well, that's who they're replacing. They're replacing Dallara with Toyota because Dallara is
interesting.
good, but Toyota is probably better priced,
Yeah.
and they want to expand this. So I thought it was a really interesting move.
I think it's funny how like a week after I made my Throwback Thursday video on past engine manufacturers that are like, out of the sport. Now it's funny that not a new engine manufacturer, but a new, technical partner is like
agreement,
enters the sport. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
coinciding timing. I mean,
Yeah, and I think also because, like you were saying, everyone has just assumed it was an engine thing when they said technical, even though they didn't say engine. So, anyways, let's move on to Audi. Two major things. Firstly, Mick Schumacher is officially back in the race for the
Old
Audi
news.
seat. Is it old news, though?
Because
I feel like
it's
his
old
name
and
in
every
Audi
single
never
driver,
really...
every single German driver has been pipped for this seat. I've heard so much about Vettel coming back. I heard Hulkenberg sliding over, and
Which he is.
Which he is.
well, he is. Yeah.
I mean, Mick Schumacher.
Yeah.
David Schumacher? No, he's still too young. But I've heard basically every German driver. I'm just not surprised. I don't believe the rumor.
You don't think so?
Mostly.
No way.
I'm sure
So
they
who is
consider
that
him.
seat then? Who has that seat?
I'm sure they consider him, but they're probably just gonna go something boring like resign Bottas
I really want Gabriel Bortoleto.
or that.
Do you think Mick Schumacher is an exciting signing or a troublesome one?
No, troublesome one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I would sign Porsche over Schumacher.
I would
Yeah.
be. It's tough because I don't want to be like super ultra hard on him, but he's also, I feel like, only even in the running because of his name and because of the money that comes with it.
Oh,
Sure.
for sure.
facts.
Yeah.
So it's like,
The
and
Audi
not to say
doesn't
that
need
that's
money.
like doesn't apply or that that's not worthy, but like I want someone who's gonna race hard, and I think that's more likely to be Gabriel Bortoleto or someone else than Mick.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I agree.
Well, if you want somebody to race hard into the wall, then you got Mick Schumacher. So.
Yeah, you know.
Big time.
You
Poor
guys didn't
Ross
like
Chastain.
that. I'm sorry
No,
about that.
No, I give you one of these.
No, I had to think about that for a second.
Finger guns.
So, anyways,
Oh
the
my
other news,
gosh.
obviously Mattia Binotto is part of that Audi team. He had a lot of things to say in a recent interview. First and foremost, he said he would not have signed Lewis Hamilton if he was still at Ferrari. What do you guys think? I know it's taken a little bit out of context because what he was really saying is that with Charles Leclerc being like their number one, it doesn't make sense to sign Lewis. They should have focused on Charles. What do you guys think?
I think in terms of background, like I would need more background to the signing. Do we know how much Lewis is going to get paid?
Probably more than Charles.
Yeah, that's where I get a little conflicted. If you're going to really build towards the future, listen, I love Lewis Hamilton. I still think he's got some juice left in the tank.
Yeah.
I don't think he's worth signing if you have to pay him more than Charles, which is
Really?
crazy. I really do believe
I
that.
agree with that because Charles is your future. Lewis can only be your future for a couple of years and then he's gone. He's on his way out. And this is really just a passion project for Lewis. I've always wanted to wear red before I retire. And this is like his leaving. Like he's not staying for long. And I just don't think it makes sense. I think even though Carlos Sainz is 28, or I guess 30? Yeah, he turned 30 this year. I think even though he's 30, he's still closer to his early days of his career rather than his exit. I do think that he'll be in the sport for a while longer, and so it doesn't make sense to me to sign Lewis for 2 years and lose all the potential you have in Carlos, unless this is us saying like they already have a backup in like Ollie Behrman, for example.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Yeah, I only see this as a stopgap until Ali's ready. I mean, you could have just done with science. I think it's just interesting they decide to go with Lewis. The only advantage I see with Lewis, other than statistically being the best driver of all time, is his knowledge of Mercedes and bringing that over to how Mercedes operated and even earlier how McLaren operated way back
But because
to
he
Ferrari.
signed so early, there's only so much he can bring with him. He can bring operational stuff, but in terms of actually competitive advantage, there's not that much he has. I
Well,
feel like.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
bringing design plans. I
No,
mean, you need to go
exactly.
back to like 2008 if you want that. But no, he'll bring like processes, norms, standards, like stuff like, you walk in and like the tires are warm. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Or like
That
he's
makes
like
no
little
sense.
things.
He's like, I always have an 8 a.m. engineering meeting. Like, no, we only have one. He's like, no, I always have two because of so and so.
Well,
Yeah.
Or maybe
Operational
even
stuff.
yeah. So I don't know.
anytime that you
Sometimes it's just
bring in-
vibes, you know.
Anytime you have a 7-time champion as your bridge driver, I think you're doing
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ferrari driver Lewis Hamilton is
What-
looking
What
good.
do you think of what he also said of him saying that that Fred Vasseur actually hasn't made any structural or organizational changes to Ferrari? Do you think he's just blowing smoke, or do you think that could be true? Because I feel like we've seen such a change in Ferrari.
Oh yeah, there's been a ton of people that left and come in. Well, Mattia Binotto gone. He's always been head of the engine department. That was a huge change.
Yeah.
Then you have Jacques Clear or Simone Resta. Simone Resta went to HAAS. He was like head of chassis there.
Mm-hmm.
You had head of strategy was fired earlier this year, I believe, or last year, and they promoted the guy under him.
Yeah.
And then there's one other. Oh, Lauren Meckes was always deputy team principal. He was like the guy right below team principal.
Yeah.
He is now over at VCarb as their team principal. There's been huge structural changes.
Yeah. I agree. All right, let's go into our conspiracies. We're gonna go kind of like chronological order. So we're
Oh my
start
God,
Tristan.
Steven.
It is. It's the season of spookiness, I guess. This isn't really a
Spooky
spooky
season.
This isn't a spooky segment, but it can be.
If you want to
If you want to make it
It
that
can
way.
be scary how crazy F1 can be.
This is
Well,
true.
What a
what's going to be
pun.
scary is next weekend in Austin. I will avoid the area.
Yeah, if you're not planning on going to the UT Georgia game or Coda and you live in Austin, I would hibernate for the weekend.
Yeah, he's got shelter in
Stop
place.
it.
Yeah.
Anyways, go for
So
it.
it's not so much of a conspiracy. It's more of like possibly one of the most confusing race weekends of all of Formula One's history. I actually did a video on this a long time ago, but it was the 2005 United States Grand Prix when Bridgestone and I believe it was Michelin, they were currently the two competing tire manufacturers in Formula One at the time, and there was like an amalgamation of things. Indianapolis had a repave that was awful. They changed the final chicane, I'm pretty sure, at Indy. And it, like, for some reason, the Michelin tires were unable to, like, stay together throughout. I think the longest run they were able to achieve throughout the whole weekend, like, with practices was, like, 10 laps or something like that.
Wow.
So they didn't have enough tires to warrant, like, they couldn't even, like, provide enough tires to get through a whole race, basically.
Yeah.
So the big, like, the conspiracy that I saw behind it, but then also, like, whatnot, is that F1 knew that Ferrari was running Bridgestones because they had a massive Bridgestone partnership at the time.
Yeah.
And Michael Schumacher hadn't won a race yet that season.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this looming conspiracy, I guess you could say, that they knew that I think it was the competitors it was them, Minardi, and then I forget the third team. Jordan. We're all running on Bridgestones. And come on. Even Ferrari against only those two teams, like, 4 other cars on the track, they're going to destroy Minardi and Jordan at the weekend. So
True.
the conspiracy
Very true.
is that Formula One kind of let that weekend happen because we're like, oh, we got to let our golden boy
So you're
win a
saying
race.
they forced Michelin to supply bad tires? So
No,
they
I
kept
think
wearing out,
Michelin
blowing up.
did mess up, but it, like,
Sounds like just
I
bad
don't know.
timing.
Yeah, because I don't know.
The ultimate conspiracy is you tell Michelin because during practices, like you said, they had the short runs, but also both the other Schumacher, was Michael's brother's name?
Ralph.
Yeah.
Ralph,
he had a big crash because his tire blew up, and I think the other one was Jarno Trulli.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was him. Another one of them blew up, and then there was huge discussions. It would all blow up on the final turn, which is turn 1 into the Indy Oval. The final turn.
Yeah.
That's why the road course doesn't include the banked turn anymore, because the speed, so come at the banked turn, Michelin's going to handle it. They just blow up.
Interesting.
So that's how I would play the conspiracies. F1 told Michelin to supply bad tires.
That's why I was kind of like, yeah.
I
That's
just
the
think that
conspiracy.
we should never go to 2 tires. Like, should always be everybody at the same.
That
Well,
would be
tire wars are
very
the worst thing in
interesting.
the world. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it would determine race weekends.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I think we should never go
I
back
think it'd
to
just be
that.
too unfair.
NASCAR and Formula One
I
both
like-
had their. I don't know if IndyCar ever had a tire war of any kind.
I don't think so.
But
so.
NASCAR had their tire war in the 80s, I'm pretty sure, with
Yeah.
Really?
Hoosier and Goodyear. Really interesting history on that. And then Ferrari had the same thing with, they had multiple, like Firestone used to be the main tire in like the 60s or whatever. And then it became.
The 90s was the craziest because you
Yeah.
had Pirelli, you had Goodyear,
And you had Michelin
And-
and you had Bridgestone.
That is
following
wild.
that
Insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
All within that 10-year span. And
That's
then even
crazy.
going into the 2000s, you still had Bridgestone and you still had, I think Pirelli dropped out.
Yeah.
And then they eventually came back on. Obviously, they're the main tire manufacturer now.
Yeah.
But,
Interesting.
I fully agree with that, Marina, because it's dangerous. Because
Yeah.
what happened with NASCAR is the tire manufacturers are fighting with each other. All right,
Yeah.
we can make this tire as thin as possible because it'll go fast. Like, we got to be
Lighter
faster than the other tire.
smaller,
But then
yeah.
you're blowing tires all the time. People are
Yeah.
getting hurt, even killed.
And then you have all the tire compounds.
Yeah, and then it's a
Yeah.
whole nightmare of that,
Well,
too.
what was super scary is when they banned tire changes in 2005.
I've never heard of that. That's
That
crazy.
happened in
What do you mean?
2005.
What does that mean?
They literally, you could not change your pit stops. I mean, you could not change your tires unless they're damaged.
You had to
In
run the
2005.
entire race with one
Interesting.
tire.
One set of tires, yes.
That is
You're
wild.
only
That's
allowed-
wild. I did not know
The
that.
FIA said it was because the Michelin is more durable and the Bridgestones were less durable. So the way we stop Ferrari from dominating is we just make pit stops illegal.
That's
And they did.
crazy.
No more pit stops.
Do you know what's crazy though is that Raikkonen had one massive incident with his tire. He left a huge flat spot. This was Hockenheimring 2005. And
Hockenheim.
now in that circumstance it was so bad his car was vibrating. He would have been eligible to come in and change his tire because of danger or safety, but he didn't, and it ended up vibrating and breaking his suspension. He ended up flying into the wall at turn 1 of Hockenheimring.
That's
And
crazy.
that's probably one of the points where he was out of title contention, crashing out. Because if he would have
insane.
pit, he would have finished on the podium instead
Yeah.
of, leading the race home and then DNFing.
That sounds like an
No, that's
ESPN 30 for 30 waiting to happen.
It was
Absolutely.
insane.
All right, I'll go with mine. So we each have one, right? So mine is one that was a conspiracy to F1 fans for a long time, is no longer a conspiracy because it's now proven fact. Crashgate. So back in 2008 when Nelson Piquet Jr. Crashed on purpose to bring out a safety car to bring Fernando Alonso back into contention, who was his teammate. and not letting fellow countrymen, dude, I'm like Felipe Massa, sorry.
There it is.
It's like so late. Anyways,
Fernando's faster.
I will say, credit where credit's due. We are recording at our latest hour we've probably ever recorded at.
yes.
So
Yeah.
I've had a long day. Anyways, back to the topic. So Nelson Piquet crashes on purpose, lets Fernando Alonso gain from the safety car, and Felipe Massa crashes. Felipe Massa does not win the championship that year. Now, they suspected it. Nelson Piquet, apparently there's like a phone call that he had with his dad. And he tells him, he's like, yeah, it was on purpose. The team said I had to if I wanted to stay on the team. And then they told, like, off the record, told the FIA, and the FIA was like, you have to submit a formal complaint. But he was still with Renault. So it ended up not being, like, officially filed or anything. And so Bernie Eccleston knew and didn't do anything. So now Felipe Massa, which I've heard, we've talked about on this podcast, is suing for his, not necessarily for his championship, for all the monetary benefits that come with it, with winning a championship. So
Like,
that was mine.
what would be the monetary, like, what brand sponsors you when you win a Rolex. You'd be a Rolex brand ambassador.
There
yeah,
you go.
but also
And now
just
he
the
missed
little
out on
things
all
like,
Like getting free milk when you, oh no, that's a 500. Free drinks at any bar. There you go.
Yeah,
well,
there you go.
yeah, there's a lot of sponsors want to sponsor world champions, right? So like sponsors, I'm sure Max has gained a lot of sponsorship money
Heineken.
from from being a world champion, and Lewis has gained a lot of publicity from being, 7-time world champion. So I think that, he never had that, and I think also Brazil really needed that. When I was in Brazil over the summer with my family, we were talking about how besides Ayrton Senna, it's been years and years and years since Brazil has had an idol. Felipe Massa never really had that, and I think the championship would have really changed that. So in terms of, Brazilian money and sponsorships, and even like the potential for Gabriel Bortoleto to now be in the sport comes a lot from the fact that we never had another, we did, but not like another big Brazilian driver.
Isn't
so.
Franco Colapinto kind of taking up that role now? I thought he was trying to embrace the Brazilian thing.
I mean, he's Argentinian, so there's that,
Right.
but like he is representing Latin America right now. That's for
Right.
sure.
yeah.
We'll see how.
Checo Perez.
Oh, there it is. That's it. All right. Wait. So why I was laughing is Heineken sponsors you when you win a world championship. And Nico Rosberg was in a Heineken ad. I saw this. They have him down as a 3-time world champion,
That's
which
hilarious.
makes complete sense because that's the Constructors' Championships he was there for. But they're
God,
not
that's
just going to
hilarious.
say 2016 champ. They're going to say 3-time FIA F1 world champion. And that's in the
putting
ad. I have
little
the ad
tide-
right here.
That's
That is
crazy.
so funny.
Was
I'm
that
gonna
the
drop
ads when
this
he was
out.
in there with his dad?
Well, no.
a couple of years ago?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because this must have came from 2015.
Because
Right?
I remember
Because
one.
14, 15, 16. No, this was from 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, he
I
would've won
might be getting
16.
too confused. I don't know if it was an AMG commercial or a Heineken commercial that I remember seeing.
There
him in.
was an AMG one
That's it
with
right there.
with the Rosbergs.
Yeah.
One of my favorite connections to Crashgate is it's funny because NASCAR. I hate to bring it back to NASCAR.
No,
again.
do it.
I know we're
Do
a
it.
multi.
Don't
motorsport
apologize.
platform.
Yes.
But NASCAR has their own version of Crashgate called Spingate.
Ooh.
Oh, is this with Joey Logano?
No.
Okay.
This is in 2013. This was with Michael Waltrip Racing. And long story short, one of Michael Waltrip Racing's cars purposely spun to bring out a caution, enabling another driver in that team to make it into the playoffs. Instead of, the funniest thing about this in connection with Formula One is that Formula One basically swept it under the rug. NASCAR went right after it that night.
Yeah.
Because the problem was it was audibly heard over the radio. Need a caution here, stuff
Yeah.
like that, or blah, blah, blah. So the largest fine ever issued in NASCAR history was a $300,000 fine to Michael Waltrip Racing. They suspended indefinitely the team's general manager, placed all 3 of the crew chiefs on probation until next year, and then both the drivers that were involved in the scandal both got eliminated from the playoffs immediately.
Well,
That's
I mean, we just
crazy.
saw it again with Austin Dillon.
Yeah, we just saw it with the
Take
spotter saying left crash him.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Take responsibility, and I think that is currently what Felipe Massa is trying to do. I mean, like,
That's all he wants.
The fact that's all he wants.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, nobody knew that Bernie Eccleston knew. Like, it was kind of like rumored and stuff, but then he goes on a freaking podcast. I think it was 2021 or 2022. And he goes, yeah, I knew. Like, before the season even ended, I knew that had happened. That was on purpose.
Jeez.
And they just didn't do anything.
I forgot what the reasoning why they waited. I think they needed to wait for Nelson to cooperate.
So, I don't really know. So, this is what I'm saying. I think that
Like,
Nelson,
there's a reason why they couldn't go after it right away.
Well, I think that's what it is. I think that he told them off the record, but he had, in order to actually, like, for them to do something, he had to submit official report. But he couldn't do that while he's still part of Renault because he still wanted to race. And no one's going to tank their own F1 career.
Right.
So I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was reading about this earlier, so I think that's what it was. All right, Jason, yours.
All right. So for mine, I have chosen the 2012 win by Williams. Now, you go back to 2012, Williams are about in the same spot today. You know, on the right day, they'll get points. Most of the time, they're like 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. But for one race, one of their drivers, I think the pairing was Bruno Senna and this guy, Pastor Maldonado. Now, for any of you,
guy.
Yeah, you know
one guy.
Pastor.
So funny.
He was the original Crash Master. Like,
The original
way
K-Mag?
worse. No, way
Crash
worse
Master.
than
Wow.
Grosjean, way worse than Nikita Mazepin. He would just go crazy. But for some reason, only his car, he went and set pole position. It was even funnier about the pole position. He didn't even have the quickest time. Lewis Hamilton did at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix. And Lewis Hamilton was disqualified for fuel irregularities.
What else is new?
So
Feels like 2024 all over again.
George Russell, question mark?
Foreshadowing.
So somehow in his home race, Fernando Alonso can't beat Pastor Maldonado. Pastor holds on for the win and wins and gets Williams' only podium that year.
That's crazy.
It's unreal.
That's crazy.
Like today, like it would be like if Alex Albon just showed up one race. Not even Albon. Calapunto shows up next race, gets on pole position, and wins the race. That was the level of craziness we're at.
Crazy.
And immediately after the race, while they're all celebrating on the podium, one of the KERS system, the hybrid system, one of them they had in the garage, catches fire. Whole garage in flames, both sides, tons of smoke, massive battery fire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Totally burnt. And the conspiracy theory is they had other teams' data and setup data from other years, and they're able to use that to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
And then they burn all the evidence after they win.
That's crazy.
I saw
Wow.
this
Is
online.
Is
I did
this
see
is this have
online.
is this proven at all?
No, there's no proof of cheating.
Okay.
Like they inspected the car, the car was not burnt, so they were able to inspect it, scrutinize it after a race.
That's crazy.
But the thing
Controlled
is
arson.
that they had some other advantage that they burnt while everybody was on the podium. Like it happened during the podium ceremony.
That's
The garage
that
was
is,
down.
yeah.
Garage
We've
was empty.
seen that happen before, though. We've seen a one race deal where an advantage is used and never gets used again. Because
Oh, yeah.
either A, they get
Yeah.
found out, and B, get told,
Yeah.
we're not going to penalize you, just don't bring it back. Like stuff like
You see
that.
Yeah.
this? Here
We've
it
done
is.
that. I've had that so many times.
Is that a picture evidence? What do we got here?
No, we have the fire. So that's the
Oh,
fire.
that's a real. That actually happened.
This is all the
The
smoke.
fire actually happened.
Oh.
The
This
conspiracy is
actually
that they set the fire themselves to cover
to
their
burn
tracks.
the evidence. That's the garage
Yeah.
destroyed.
That's
after.
unreal. Oh my god. Okay.
So yeah,
You never know,
that's
man.
a guy dying from smoke inhalation. That's actually not a great photo. I
Yeah.
should have shown that on the podcast. Anyways,
Wow, they can't. see
Well, they can't see it. so.
that's my conspiracy theory.
That's
There you go.
crazy.
That's crazy. All right, last but not least, I love this one. This one's so good.
Oh, thank
Steven.
you.
Steven.
Yes, so this is a very recent one. Basically, Liberty Media pressured Red Bull into keeping Checo Perez after the Spa
This
race.
is so facts, bro.
If you ask reporters,
This is
they'll
not a
say,
conspiracy theory. This is facts.
How about Marco was like,
Marina,
no, no, no.
are you drinking the Kool-Aid? Are you drinking the cherry Red Bull?
Okay, I'm gonna let him finish talking, and then I'm gonna explain what I actually think is the conspiracy.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what happened was, of course, we all know after the Spa race, we were told, I believe it was Helmut Marko who said this was going to happen, or maybe Christian Horner, one of the two.
Probably a helmet.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, we're going to decide what happens with Checo. You know, after Spa, he does terrible at Spa, as he's been doing.
Yeah.
And the whole conspiracy is that Liberty Media was like, oh, you guys got to keep him for the Mexican Grand Prix so you can bring in
Ticket
more money.
sales, yeah.
But obviously that didn't happen.
That'd be so.
I hope he retires in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too that I found it
Please,
interesting was
begging
is that
of you.
there was the whole this changed within hours because there was the whole meeting after the race between obviously Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and the whole Red Bull team, and the idea was that there was pressure that he was gonna be let go, and then it changed within hours after the race.
Yeah, because I remember seeing videos of Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen leaving together on the helicopter with
What
Daniel's
race was
wine.
this?
This is
Spa.
Spa. They were leaving with Daniel's wine, and they were ready to go. It kind of seemed like we're celebrating that Daniel's coming back to to the team.
Yeah.
Back to Red Bull. And then all of a sudden we have all these things where it's rumors that he's gone.
Yeah.
I have a counter to
Opposite,
this.
yeah.
And then
once
it's
we're
boom. My counter to this is that
counter
it
to the
wasn't Liberty Media. It was Checo having blackmail on Red
It
Bull.
could be that too.
There's no
mean,
way.
yeah.
There's no way he doesn't have something on that team.
Yeah.
Or on the people and there's
That'd
no
be
way he
so
doesn't
funny.
have something on
That,
Christian Horner.
The implication is he's still holding it over their
Yeah,
heads.
Oh, I'm
that's
sure
what
he
I'm
is.
thinking. He is holding some information.
Yo, he's got
over Christian
file
Horner's-
76.
I don't know what
If
it
anybody
is.
remembers the Google
66.
Drive, the
That
Google
is what
Drive
he
is
has.
still exists. I have it.
Oh
I have the
my
Google
gosh.
Drive.
What's your counter? Is that your counter?
No, my counter is that they weren't celebrating Ricardo getting promoted. They're celebrating Ricardo staying in F1 because if you ask Marco or whoever, they want him out in Spain.
This is true.
And
This is true.
Christian
Yeah, that's what they
Horner
said.
fought for him and said, "Hey, you need another chance. This guy's pretty good. Let him cook."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it
him
didn't work
cook.
out. But that could have been another moment after Spain where Marco was like, "Hey, we need to move on right before the summer break. Let's get him out of the car." And Horner successfully fought it off and got him up until Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's so many conspiracy theories in F1 and so many big ones. And recently though, I have to share this on the pod because this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So, obviously, fans of the sport know that we're having pretty much an unprecedented second break of the season. It's a huge break. This break is bigger than the summer break. And so I was stumbling on TikTok and I found someone that posted saying, just saw people on Twitter fighting over whether they think Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc's dog would win in a dog fight. And someone called Roscoe a starved vegan. And someone else said Leo would be the first real meal he's had in ages. We really need cars back on track.
Jeez, man.
Well, by that, I would
gosh.
bet on Roscoe
I
every
know.
day.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I need cars back on track. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
NASCAR playoffs. Hello.
I need
True.
F1 cars. I need single seaters
Yeah.
back.
We got
With
road
that
course
said,
coming.
with that
There
said,
was a road course today.
That's what I meant.
The Roval.
Yes.
Alex
Coda-
Bowman got DQ'd.
Coda predictions.
Coda predictions.
Wait, are we doing our made up?
Do you want to do another one? You can do another one.
All right, I have.
I have a
one.
made up one too.
I have a.
Mine was the Checo one. So
Oh. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
mine's
mine-
very
Jason,
deep.
you want to go first? Or you want me
Mine
to go
was
first?
based on a real event of in 2015 testing, the first year of the Honda engines in McLaren. Fernando Alonso crashed, and he went right to the hospital, inexplicably.
Nice.
Wow.
You got
Right.
there.
inexplicably.
Right now,
Explicably.
there's very little footage of the crash, and he was extracted from the car. The conspiracy is that he was shocked by the new Honda power system.
It's so
Lost his
powerful.
mind, and he was in the hospital for a couple days. And people are saying that he forgot who he was
What?
transported back in time to right after his karting days.
What?
And
That's why
had
he's a rookie?
no clue
I have
what
heard about
happened.
this.
I'm sorry. This is
This
crazy.
absolute fan conspiracy.
Because it never came out. There's no injury. There's no car failure.
There's absolutely no
it
way
was
that's
just
true.
like he let go of
That
the
is
wheel
absolutely
and went straight into the
not
wall
true.
at turn 2.
Wow.
So something happened, and I think he was shocked because there's no physical injury. There's no damage to the car.
Yeah.
I don't know
yeah,
about that
no.
one, Chief.
That one is a little too far of a reach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do like it though.
That
it's
is pretty
funny.
decent.
Tristan, you had one?
Mine's pretty quick. It's been a conspiracy ever since I first got into the sport. Because when I got into it, Mercedes was kind of in the middle of their domination. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't like F1 to begin with. I was like, how is
Oh.
this like? Well, I hate dominance. Every sport is. I hated when the Patriots won all their Super Bowls, all like that. I never liked dominance.
So you're Pats fans.
Well, the Pats were demolished.
Hey,
today.
you know what though?
Yeah.
Drake May looks great.
Drake May did look
He
great.
he probably outplayed CJ Stroud. No cap.
Okay.
No cap.
Says the 41-21 loss. But that's
Hey,
okay.
we're looking at individual performances here.
Goodbye.
My
Goodbye.
conspiracy is
L.
that going way back to like when the V6 hybrid engines were like first initially introduced, I think somehow, some way, Mercedes was tipped off about it years before anybody else was, and somehow, some way, I think they knew and were able to prepare so much for it that like it wasn't even like it was a guarantee that they were going to be a force to be reckoned with for at least a decade. That's my like theory is that
That's
somehow
interesting.
somehow loose paperwork ended up on Toto's desk one day. Is like, hey, we have a mole on the inside.
But this is going back years. Now, my counter is what did happen is teams knew about this back in like something ridiculously early, like 2011, 2012.
1965.
And most teams waited, and Mercedes didn't wait. As soon as they heard about it, they started developing. And that's
Yeah.
why they're so far ahead. The conspiracy is that they turned down the engines so that FIA wouldn't regulate them back. So every race they're racing at like 80% engine power
Interesting.
and still dominate.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
if they turn up to 100, it would
It'd
have
be
looked
obvious.
pretty-
like, all right, we gotta
It
look
would
at
be
this.
like, yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the conspiracy I would build.
That's crazy.
I have a very deep one that's also I don't have
Okay.
to go through the whole thing, of course, but it also is really relevant. F1 never wanted Michael Andretti in the sport to begin with. And this goes all the way back to his F1 days.
At
in
McLaren.
Yes. Yep. This goes all the way back. He was struggling when he came in. And
I
there's
mean, you had a real ripper at McLaren. You had Martin Brundle in there for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, the whole thing
Real
was,
ripper.
I was reading about this, is that, of course, during this time, McLaren wasn't looking great. And then, they had Ayrton Senna in the car, of course, at that time. But then they also had, you're going to have to help me on this pronunciation. I think I have it, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Hakkinen? It's not-
Hakkinen.
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 Yes. They had Hakkinen coming in. And he was promised a seat.
Hakkinen.
He was
Like
promised a
Hackenberg.
yeah, he was promised a
Like
seat at
Hakkinen.
McLaren when Ayrton Senna and both Michael Andretti were both in the car, but they were actually going as far as saying that there's like a clause in Hakkinen's contract that if I guess Michael or Ayrton, because the whole thing was that Ayrton wasn't going to have a contract extension, and then he had a $1 million race by race extension, and there's a whole thing that if he didn't, or if he did sign, which he did, of course, that they would put Hakkinen in a third car for McLaren, which that never happened. But yeah, then there's the whole thing that they thought that, Michael Andretti thought that their beacon went out in a race, and that was the reason why he did so bad. And that was right before like the contract negotiations and stuff like that. And then of
Yeah.
course you move to today, and they're not winning F1 again. And there's the whole thing that there was comments made during the time that.
My counter to that is just that it's F1 has always been a European dominated
No,
sport.
yeah, for sure.
And even though it's not okay, I think that
Americans
it
own F1 now, which makes
It's
it
a-
even funnier.
comes, yes, but it's also the money in F1 is still rooted in Europe. As much as
In the Middle East.
there's fans here, there are, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. To,
We're gonna lose some. You think we're gonna lose more American fans because Danny Rick's gone now?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, we're lose more from Logan Sargent.
No. LOL. That's really
Maybe.
funny. No, I think we're definitely going to lose a lot of F1 fans because of Daniel leaving, and I think that Daniel Ricciardo made such an impact on the sport in the U.S. specifically. There's a lot of Drive to Survive fans in the U.S.,
Yeah.
which is not a dig or anything. It's not a bad thing. It's a good
No.
thing. But yeah, I do think that's gonna be a detriment to the U.S. market.
It is crazy
Losing
though.
Logan and Daniel, same like mid-season, both
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Knowing that the United States is top 5 in total, like if you're talking like total drivers that have been in the sport of F1, they're top 5.
That's crazy.
Seriously,
It's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, so it's
That's shocking.
number 1's the UK. That's
Obviously.
an
Makes
obvious.
sense.
Number
Rule
2, I'm pretty sure is either Italy or Germany.
Probably Germany.
I think it's actually Italy. I think Italy's one away from 100.
Okay.
100 drivers.
That's
They're at 99
crazy.
right now. Germany's at 54.
Okay.
And it says here
Wow,
that
I didn't
America's at
expect you to say-
58 total drivers that have competed
Ain't no way.
in what's it called?
F1.
A
In
Grand
Formula
Prix.
1. Yeah, in a Grand Prix at the very least. Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably came from the early days, especially when the 500 was a
Yeah,
championship
that's
event.
that's where the big asterisk is when the 500 kind of became a Formula One
Imagine if
event.
that was
but it
still-
Yeah, I don't
is.
know that that's like. I feel like that number is very altered because of that.
Yeah.
Imagine
If
if
that
that was
counts.
still an event.
Yeah.
Like,
I
yes,
think it still
Max
counts,
would
but it
have-
is weird.
I wish
yeah.
I wish F1 had a break for the 500 to allow F1 drivers to compete in the 500.
Oh, that'd be so
That'd be
cool.
cool.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh
Right?
my
That should be like the
God,
All-Star
that's a good
race.
idea.
Yes.
I'm saying.
Mhm.
Everybody funds it. Like, imagine a Red Bull IndyCar team.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
man.
That'd be
That'd be so
crazy.
cool.
The thing is,
That'd
I'll
be
bring up
crazy.
too. Just
Yeah,
with
it'd be
this.
really fun to hear the Dutch national anthem just one more time.
Oh
you know?
my gosh. There's
Who the
no
hell
way.
would he race for? I'm
Just-
surprised Red Bull doesn't have an IndyCar team, to be honest.
No.
But
Yeah.
They don't
They
need
tried
one.
a NASCAR team, but they chose Gunther Steiner.
Dude,
I was gonna say, wasn't
It's
Travis
not-
NASCAR
Pastrana
team
Pastrana
got
too?
it was NASCAR
Red
team
Bull's-
started really bad, and then
Yeah.
it got so much better, and then they just closed doors.
Wasn't Travis Pastrana on that team too?
Yeah, I think he was. It was
Travis
weird.
Pastrana he raced for Jack Roush.
But I
for
thought he was
sure.
sponsored by Red Bull.
He was sponsored by Red Bull, but he didn't race for Red Bull.
Okay.
Like
We forget that Red Bull is just a sponsor.
It's true. It's
It's
And
a
true.
they
Red
make
Bull
their own
team,
engines.
Yeah.
but it's
they
it's
built
a
a
marketing
supercar.
expense. They break
Yeah.
even, and it's a marketing expense. That's it.
Yep.
So it's like
I can't believe it. And they
They're in-
build their
they're
own
in all these
engines.
extreme
They
sports.
built their own car.
Can you imagine? You're gonna have like a new generation coming in at some point that's gonna
Have
be
a
like,
wind
oh
tunnel?
yeah, Red Bull, the car manufacturer. Like
the
what?
engine manufacturer is crazy. Like that's insane. Like you would have never thought that back in 2005 when this team like kind of got off the ground. So,
Yeah.
anyways, speaking of US, now let's do Coda predictions.
Coda predictions.
Who wants to start?
I usually start, don't I?
Go for it.
I think so. I'm gonna go for a wild card this time.
Okay.
Actually, it's so crazy to say it's
Dude.
a wild card.
You're gonna say Max Verstappen's winning is a wild card.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Wow.
I'm having Max win this race. I don't know why. I have a feeling that there's gonna be like residual,
has
like there's gonna be
upgrades.
like the upgrade. Well, this is barring the upgrades.
Okay.
I think Max is just gonna find vengeance somehow this weekend.
That would hurt so bad for Danny Rick too if
I
Red Bull
want
won.
Max to race with Danny's helmet.
That'd be really cool.
Oh, did you see that Danny Rick gave Oscar Piastri his helmet
Oh.
and signed it?
I did see that.
I have
see
I have
that.
news. I have news about
Oh,
the Coda.
oh.
Apparently, they're gonna give Danny Ricciardo the key to the city.
Oh, they were
at
saying
the
that.
Grand Prix.
Well, it's not gonna
And
happen.
now. Since he's fired, he's not getting.
Yeah. Well, it's not because it's not that he's not. It's just that he's gonna get. They said they were gonna give it to him at a later date because he's not gonna be there.
Such a shame. But no, I have Max P1, Lando P2, Charles P3.
I like it.
It's weird though. It's weird not having Oscar on that top 3.
I was
It's weird
gonna
having
say.
Max P1.
Yeah, I
Which
don't
is
know why. It's in my
crazy.
gut right now. I just
Hey,
feel
he's
like
the championship leader.
yeah.
All right, Mr. Williams.
We're gonna have
James Miles P1.
James Wells
Well,
P1.
one of the most historically successful drivers at Coda, future Ferrari driver Lewis Hamilton will
I knew you were
win.
gonna say that.
And then behind him we're gonna have Oscar Piastri, and then third we're gonna have Norris.
That's a really interesting prediction, Jay Nolly.
Yeah,
Really?
I'm locking down Lewis just for fun, but I genuinely think the McLarens are just gonna show up still better than ever. Like,
Fair.
I think the McLarens. This might be a hot take. I think they might struggle a little bit in Coda.
That's what I'm kind of feeling.
That sounds
a little
like
bit.
wishful thinking from a Red Bull fan.
All right, what's your Mr. McLaren fan? What's
Well,
your
you know what
Lando
my prediction
P1,
is.
Lando P2, and Lando P3.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, why not? I mean, it's not weird anymore. Lando P1. I'll go Max P2 and Piastri P3.
your preseason predictions
Nah,
are
bruh.
crazy. I can't believe you.
Nah,
nailed them.
bruh.
Nah, bro. Okay.
I might be making alliances here with Marina by saying Max P1.
Oh, here we
This
go.
might be true.
Might be my favorite person this week. Okay. I do think Red Bull, I think they probably, because unlike an official summer break, you can work throughout this whole break. I think that they're going to come back strong. I don't know that they're going to stay strong. I don't think it's going to be enough to consistently win races again. But I think that they need to be back in winning form. So, wishful thinking, Mrs. Delulu over here is going to go
At least you
Max, Oscar, Lando.
Okay. I think that's a very fair top 3.
I
that's
think
very fair.
Oscar to be ahead of Lando is very fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think Oscar has
Yeah.
more momentum right
Let's
now.
not forget, Oscar Piastri is closer to Lando Norris than Lando Norris is to Max Verstappen. So,
So you're telling me Max can come in third in the championship?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, actually,
I don't know if it's
he'd have to
possible.
DNF. He'd have to DNF like almost every race.
Hey, you still have Charles Leclerc. Like,
What I'm telling you is that Oscar Piastri can still be second in the championship.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's true. Anything
So-
can happen.
Absolutely. All right, quote of the day.
Okay.
One word. I quote this, and my best friend, JJ, we quote this like daily. Okay? Facts.
Wow, that is
Is it Danny
incredibly
Lando
vague.
Norris.
It's not a Danny Rick. Who'd you say?
Lando Norris.
No.
We're gonna need more context than just
Same
facts.
rookie. Same
Any
rookie
year?
year.
Oh, George Russell. then.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Have you not seen this video?
I don't believe I
Oh.
have.
You guys are breaking my heart. We are
I've-
watching this video after the podcast.
I've had
Okay.
Norris say facts before, but I never heard crikey guy say it. So.
Cranky guy. That's
crikey.
crazy.
Crikey.
Right.
guy.
Oh, okay.
Crikey.
I don't know. Tea and crumpets, man. I don't know. What's it
Question mark?
called?
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back next week, as always, Mondays at 11:30 Eastern Time for our CODA post-race talk. In the meantime, stay tuned on our Instagram and TikTok at Lights Out Latest for Tech Tuesday, Wag Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, and some occasional Man on the Street. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.